Do you ever wonder how some agents make this business look easy? Like the clients just line up while the rest of us are chasing Facebook leads that ghost after 3 text messages? Adam was one of those quiet killers in real estate. No giant team, no billboards, no braggy scripts, yet he built momentum most agents dream about. Stick around to hear exactly how he did it. I'm Carrie Hill, lawyer turned realtor and EXP certified mentor, and today I'm introducing you to Adam, a super successful agent who uses AI to up his game. If you've ever thought there has to be a smarter way to build this thing without burning out, my guest today is proof that there is. What he'll share could literally be the shortcut you've been hunting for. Hi everyone, thank you for joining the channel today. This is Adam Gillespie. He is in Denver, Colorado, and I'm so excited to have him on the channel today and hear about his story. So Adam, welcome.
Thanks, Carrie. I'm super pumped to be here.
Yay! And my first question to you is, before we get into the real estate aspect of your journey, what were you doing before? I see all the guitars on the wall right behind there. I really want to hear that story as a part of your background.
Yeah, that was mainly my entire life until my mid-30s. I thought I was going to be a famous musician, and I gave it the old college try and almost made it. But realistically, it's a very tough industry to be in. It's not as glamorous as, all the major stars make it out to be. So did that run from about 2004 to 2014 and did a lot of touring, played with a lot of really big bands, won some competitions, and had a good time with it. But it's not how they say it is. It was there were 6 members in my band, and we used to tour in a 1995 Chevy G20 van, and we had our manager with us. So basically 7 people cooped in a tiny little van and never could afford a hotel room. So we were always just driving down the road, stinky and drunk. So I came back in about 2014. My son was 7 at that point in time, and I realized I was missing a lot of his life. And I wanted to be more supportive for him growing up and just kind of be there more as a husband to my wife. So I made the very difficult decision to put that dream aside and to become an entrepreneur, and went into general contracting, and then found myself frustrated with all the employees and the bull crap that goes along with that. So real estate was the answer to my solutions, because at the end of the day, it's up to us to make this work. And we can't really point the finger at anybody else if we fail other than ourselves. So I liked that concept, and I went into it, and it was the best thing I ever did.
Wow, that's great. So did you go literally jump from that straight full-time into real estate, or did you have some kind of transition?
So when I came back in 2014 off of the tour, we were in an apartment, and it was just not for me. I wanted to buy a house for my family, so I had to go get a real job for a second. So I went and got a job as a service writer at a Freightliner dealership, and I did that for 2 years. Got approved for my loan and closed on my house in July of 2015. So I actually started in late 2013 when I started that job. And then by October, I was self-employed. I only used the job to get approved for the loan. And then after that, I was like, that's it. I can't do this. There's just no money in the regular work life. I dropped out of high school in 10th grade thinking I was going to be famous. So I had no college education, no GED, nothing like that. So it was like, front desk somewhere making very little wages, or figure out how to do this entrepreneur thing and be able to support my family. So it was an easy decision after that.
That is great. So still though, how did you get started? I mean, in real estate, what did you do first off to get going?
So when I was, me and my brother-in-law, who was from New York, and he was a general contractor out in New York, and I had kind of gone back and forth from construction throughout when I was in school before I went on tour with my band. And I knew a little bit of construction, and I was always good with numbers, and I could plan things very well. So I talked to my brother-in-law. We started this construction company, and I did that full time. So I literally left my Freightliner job, never did the part-time thing, went full time into that, made enough money in the construction to where when I decided to finally put that to bed, it was actually it was kind of a spur of the moment thing. I had always thought about real estate, but I thought you had to have like a diploma and stuff to do it. And when I found out you didn't have that, I literally just woke up one morning. It was in like February of 2017. I just woke up one morning at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was super stressed about the job in the construction business. So called my brother-in-law at 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, I'm out, dude. I'm going to sign over the LLC to you. Like, it's all yours. He was obviously very disappointed at that, but I knew it wasn't for me. It was just my quality of life started to suck. And I went downstairs into my office and I signed up for real estate school, and I did the entire thing in 30 days and just dove head first right into it and said, this is gonna have to work because there's really nothing else that I think can do it. And I've been full-time since day one.
Wow, that's awesome. So what was your first way of going about getting leads?
So I tried the whole sphere thing. Like we learned, I started out with Keller Williams, and I did their like, I can't remember what they call it. I think it was like bold or something like that. And they're like, call your sphere. Well, my sphere was still very much so not purchasing houses, right? I mean, just think about musicians at this point in time. We were mostly drunk and high, so there wasn't a lot of people making real estate decisions. And then I already had this reputation of being this crazy guitar player, so nobody wanted to take me serious for the largest purchase of their life. So I tried that for a little bit. It actually took me 7 months to get my first real estate deal. I struggled a lot, and then I ended up joining a Zillow team. So that was where a lot of my first deals came from, which I really liked that because that team aspect, they took care of the lead gen for me while I could get used to doing real estate. And then I realized that that's not sustainable. So I started researching more about, digital marketing, which was really kind of funny because I actually learned a lot of this stuff in the band. I just didn't really put, the apples to apples at this point in time. So being in a band is very similar to being in real estate. You just, trade out playing shows with showing houses and closing deals, but the marketing is all the same. So, we were always building flyers for the band. We were always going out on social media. This was the MySpace days, but we were always trying to get people to recognize who we were. So I kind of put that together in real estate, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think I actually know how to do this. So I started running Facebook ads for my real estate business, and that was when I locked into my CRM. I realized that that's like the lifeblood of my business, and if I can just figure out ways to bring people into the CRM and then nurture them with education and information, that I should be fine, and it worked.
That is great. What kind of Facebook ads were you running?
I run a lot of home buyer program ads or program-based ads. So where most people are like, oh, click here for my free buyer's guide or click here to view a listing, I wanted people to understand that I provide a white glove type service to my clients where I handle everything that they can possibly imagine other than them getting pre-approved with the lender and figuring out what house they like. And I coupled that with my hate of salespeople. So I just do not like to be sold to. I don't like psychological sales techniques. So I just kind of envisioned myself more as an advisor and an educator, and then I would run ads based on that. So I run a first-time homebuyer program where people would click on my link inside of Facebook to find more information about my program, and I found out that was the easiest way to get people on the phone. People are like, if you give them a guide, they get the guide, and then you call them, they're like, yeah, I'm not ready, click, or they don't answer the phone. But when they're inquiring about a program that I run, they're willing to have that conversation with me. And then as soon as I can get in front of people and they can see I'm a real person and I actually care about what they're trying to do, it was very easy to convert them into clients. The biggest struggle at that point in time was just getting them pre-approved.
Yeah, of course. So just a little bit more on that. So the program that you're running, so they click on it, and then what did it look like after that? What did you do at that point?
Yeah, so I was, I understood the power of the CRM straight out the gate. So way back in the day before I was touring with my band, I used to work in a call center, and we would have a database. And we would call people off that database, and then we would leave our notes, and then there was a marketing department that would nurture them. It was basically for extended warranties on your cars. So I wasn't the salesman, but I was the guy that denied your car claim when your alternator went out on your used car. So I kind of just kept, linking these previous experiences together. So somebody would click on my ad for Facebook, and it would say something like, "Attention Denver renters, my first-time homebuyer program simplifies the process, making it easier for you to become a homeowner. Click learn more below to see if my program's a good fit for you. So they would click that, and then it would take them to a Facebook form, and they would answer some questions and fill out their information. That would then come into my CRM automatically, and then I would send them out on automatic email drip campaigns and automatic text campaigns to book that appointment. And most of them would respond to the first couple of texts, and then I'd book that appointment. And then, like I said, it was very easy to convert them at that point in time. A lot of them needed credit help, or credit repair. So I developed a credit system, not to dispute their credit, but to help them understand their credit better. And I would drip that out to them in an email campaign over a series of a few years. And I just kind of thought that if I could nurture the clients for as long as physically possible, that when they were finally ready, they would want to choose me because I was the one that was actually helping them, not trying to convince them to buy a home. Just giving them the information. So I ran with that, and I built out all of these systems inside my CRM to where it was mostly automated. The only thing I ever had to do was just make calls. And that in and itself ended up becoming my full system, and I built my entire business on it.
That's excellent. So tell me, which CRM are you using? I know you're big and lofty now. Was it the same when you first started?
No, I actually did 10 brokerages since 2017, and I was what they call a brokerage hopper. But so I've been on them all. I started out on Keller Williams CRM, and then, I went through like Lion's Desk, Commissions Inc., Boomtown, and so many others. It's literally insane. I could name them all, but we'd be sitting here for a while. But I ended up on Lofty when I joined a team in like 2018, 2019. And I saw that this was the first time that this was like an all-in-one real suite that does their website. They have behavioral automations. They have the automatic texting, automatic emailing. We could even do print marketing and all of that in one. So I just kind of fell in love with the Lofty platform at that point, which back in those days, it was called Chime. And that was my favorite one, but it was super expensive. It was like $400 a month. And so I kind of clung to that while I was with my brokerage. And then I eventually left that brokerage and I went to Follow Up Boss. And I was on Follow Up Boss for years. And then EXP brought Lofty in, and I was like, no brainer, canceled my Follow Up Boss, got into Lofty, and I've been on there ever since.
Okay, that's great. You must have loved that then, the CRM of choice. It's only a couple of months old, so that must have been amazing.
Yeah, it was great. Well, and then they brought it in back in like November of 2023 as a paid option. But we got a really good discount on it. So instead of $400 a month, I was getting it for $40 a month. So I was like, oh yeah, no brainer. It was even cheaper than my Follow Up Boss. And then right as that all was happening, I was hesitant to switch because I had put so much time into Follow Up Boss, and then Zillow bought them. And I was like, oh yeah, no, we're done. So
that's great. And then it's even easier now that it's completely free at EXP, right? So this just keeps getting better. Can't beat free though. Yeah. So tell me, what are the systems that you use most in Lofty to run your business?
I'm big on their automations. So the least amount of time that I have to spend inside the system, better. That frees up more time for me to spend time with my family, go out and find more clients, be a better realtor for my existing clients that are ready to make the move. So I'm not bogged down by a lot of that administrative stuff. So I locked into the automations early on, and the automations that Lofty couldn't do, I figured out how to have Zapier do them for me. So it was just really using that. And then AI came around and it just changed the entire game. Because now instead of spending weeks building out these drip campaigns, I could build them in a matter of hours. So I was able to customize stuff. So now I have drip campaigns for each different type of buyer or seller that I have. And then I can also scrape their personality profile statistics from their social media using AI. And then I can build drip campaigns based on their disc profile. So I've got like 4 campaigns for each type of buyer, one for the drivers, one for the influencers, one for the steadies, and one for the consciousness. And then I have those go out to them. So I communicate with my buyers on the subconscious way that they'd like to be communicated with, which makes it easier for them to understand what it is that we're trying to do. And they feel like I'm meeting them on their level.
That's great. That's brilliant too.
Thanks.
So give me an example of one of the things that you have to connect Zapier to pull off on Lofty.
Yeah. So for example, when I'm running my Facebook ads, Lofty, if I just do the direct integration from Lofty to Facebook, I can't control what that lead does when it comes in. It just kind of brings it in as a Facebook lead. And if I'm running multiple Facebook ads for a bunch of different programs, I have to go in and manually tag them. So what I would do is I would use Zapier to connect to the Facebook lead forms, and then that would feed that data to Lofty. But through Zapier, I can add things like tags and smart plans and all of these other things. So that way it's all automated, and I didn't have to go in every time I got a new lead and send them on the right path. Zapier would put them in with the data that triggers those automations in Lofty to send them down that right path.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. I've always wondered what Zapier does. It's kind of like one of those.
It's a connector. Yeah,
that's I knew it was a connector.
What it is.
And I was like, what do I want to connect? So thank you for telling me something to connect. What I caught from that conversation is, so you're still using the Facebook ads today. This must have been just something that you started with and just kept going with, right?
Yeah. And I've done a lot of like Google PPC and stuff like that as well. But I've always been able to get a higher volume of leads for a lower cost through Facebook. And the best part is that we're not competing against a lot of the big people. Like Facebook, for whatever reason, the big corporations and the big brokerages don't really advertise on there. They advertise in Google. So when we're trying to do pay-per-click on Google, if your SEO's not dialed in completely perfect, and even when it is, you're still competing with Zillow and Realtor.com and all of those other major corporations, where Facebook is more cost per impression. And then we can zone it down into geographical regions. So it's just really about getting, the ad perfected to where your message gets across to the right audience properly, and then people will come in. So my average, like on PPC for a buyer lead, is average like $20 a lead. I run my Facebook ads and typically get them under $4 a lead.
Oh, wow. That is great. Yeah. What a great tip you just gave everybody listening to this. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that you also use your CRM to basically say top of mind. I mean, what are some of the top of mind things you do since you've got this large database going?
Yeah, so every lead that comes into my system gets set on a property alert. And that's one of the cool things about Lofty, is I can monitor what they're doing on my website. And then we also have an app called the Closely app that Lofty gives us for free. So when a buyer comes in and they get their welcome email, it gives them their login credentials to the website. And then it also says, hey, download your personal app. Well, that app is branded to me. It's a lot like HomeBot, for those of you that are listening that have used HomeBot before. And they can browse for homes on there. They can put their home address in and get a home evaluation instantly. They can even see what like refinancing options would look like based on their equity position. And then they can communicate with me directly, which people love that, right? Even when you're like on Zillow and they click the contact Zillow or contact agent button on Zillow, they end up with like a commission hungry agent on the other end trying to sell them something. I'm answering DMs straight through the app for them all day. And then I'm also sending them market snapshots. And this is all automatic, by the way. I'm not manually doing any of this. I send them market snapshots. I send them emails. So not just like newsletters, but educational, informational emails. I send them holiday cards. I'll send them print marketing, all of the things that Lofty allows us to do to stay top of mind. But the key is that I don't use like the pre-designed drips, because I found that most of those emails are very salesy, and I hate that. So I just create all of my own, and I decide when and where I want to put them out to. But I make sure that every single email, every single text, every single piece of print marketing offers something of value, some sort of educational piece that they can learn more about the process. And I just do this over a very long time, because you always hear people say, oh, internet leads are garbage, internet leads are junk. And it's like, no, it's just that internet is the first place that people go when they start thinking about the idea. So the majority of them are not ready at that point in time. And this is where realtors get super frustrated with it, right? They're like, oh, these leads don't convert. It's like, well, you just didn't hang on long enough. So that was what I designed in my system, was like, I don't care if you're not ready. That's completely fine. I want you just to be educated and informed, so that way when you are ready, you're going to want to call me, because I'm the only one not begging you to buy a house.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm sure that's very successful, just staying top of mind. And I love not being salesy. It's excellent. It's crazy how many people think you have to say, do you want to buy or sell a house, when it's really just you're a realtor. Everybody knows what that means.
Right. Yep.
Right. So let's just go into, I know you use AI. You've talked about how you're using AI in the automations for Lofty. Yeah, specifically, you were talking about the reps. Tell me some other ways that you're using. I know that you're a big AI expert. You're a big AI expert in our group. You and I both share our Wolfpack upline, a lot of similarities at
Yep.
EXP. So we know each other, and this is your thing. So tell me some other things that you're using it for besides like creating these very specific, targeted, automated emails, which sound amazing.
Yeah, I use it for a lot of the practical applications. So think about like, anything that we do as real estate agents during a transaction that takes a lot of your time that a computer could do for you. So let's say for example, you've got a new buyer under contract in a community that has an HOA or a metropolitan district, right? We always get that email from the title company. It's like, hey, we got the HOA docs, and then you open it up and it's a zipped folder and there's like 20 different documents in there, and the rules and regulations and the CCNRs and all of this other stuff that's involved that is just a lot of stuff to read. Well, I started to realize that most of the time our clients don't read it. And it's not our responsibility to read it for them, but I'm like, how can I better help the client through this? So what I would do is I would stick all of that inside of AI. So I'd bring it into a project inside of ChatGPT or Gemini, whichever one I want to use for any given situation. And then I would so here's a perfect example. So I've got a client under there, and there's an AI app out there called Notebook LM. And this is powered by Google's Gemini. But the beautiful thing about Notebook LM is that it's a grounded model. And by grounded model, that means that it doesn't actually have a data set or access to the internet. So whatever source I feed in a Notebook LM, it will only read that source and nothing else. And this eliminates the possibility of a lot of the AI hallucinations we see on ChatGPT. And for those of you that are like, what's an AI hallucination? It's stating a fact that's not true, right? So I put this into Notebook LM. Notebook LM has an audio overview function, which is like a podcast that has 2 hosts on it. And I'll have it devour that manual, and then I'll go into the audio overview and I'll say, this is for my first-time home buyer that's purchasing their home in this neighborhood here. This is the type of the house that they are. Here's all the information. I want you to create a podcast to explain the rules and regulations and what they should expect as a homeowner. And it'll generate this audio overview that I'll bring down into an MP3. And then I'll put that in and I'll attach that to the email. And then I'll also have Notebook LM give a summary that's broken down and easy to understand for somebody who doesn't understand this. And I'll give them a nice email of everything that they need to look forward to or what they need to be aware of. And then I'll send that to them in an email, and then they can sit there and they can listen to the podcast and they have all that information right in front of them. And it's just going that extra mile for the client, right? Where 9 out of 10 realtors are going to be like, here's your HOA docs. Let me know if you have any questions. And then the clients have a life, so they don't ever read them, and then 6 months later, they're like, hey, I just got fined because my grass was too long. Why didn't you tell me about this? And this kind of avoids that. It's all about really getting those expectations out to them. So I utilize AI a lot in that fashion to do it. I even have it devour my inspection reports as well. We get those 80-page inspection reports, and a lot of realtors don't know the general contracting side of things. I'm lucky enough to where I was involved in that, so I really understand it. But I'll once again feed that inspection report in. I'll feed it an example of my inspection objection, tell it what I think is the most important and what we talk about with the client. Then I will have it create my inspection objection for me to where it's just copy and paste into my contract software. And then I'll have it start the negotiation process with the realtor on the other end. So I'll once again scrape personality profile statistics of the realtor I'm working with, find out what part of the disc they are, and then I'll feed that to ChatGPT or Gemini, and I'll say, okay, let's start the negotiation process. Here's their personality type. How should I approach this? I need you to act as my coach to negotiate this deal. So then it'll tell me what to look out for with their personality, what to avoid in my language. It'll start the email for me, and then I can better negotiate for my clients because I understand more about the realtor working on the other side.
That is some amazing value that you are providing your clients, and that's great. So you've mentioned a couple times ChatGPT or Gemini. Do you ever use any of the other ones, Claude, Perplexity, any of those? Or are those, you already come down to these 2 as being your go-tos?
Yeah, I use a lot of them. Claude is great for writing. So it tends to be a little bit better at the flow of words, right? ChatGPT 5, especially ChatGPT 5, is like very corporate and dry, and Claude is more storyteller. Now we can prompt any of these models to do either or, but out the gate, Claude is just significantly better with that. So a lot of times I'll use Claude for writing. ChatGPT I love because it's got projects where we can actually, you know, like I bring in like my listings and it'll write all my listing descriptions and create my ads for me. And it understands that, and having it all in one project is very, very useful. Gemini I use for my research. So Gemini has that deep research function, which so does ChatGPT, but Gemini's model is inherently smarter than any of the other large language models out there. It's consistently being rated better by users, and it also beats it's the highest scoring large language model on the MMLU, which is like an IQ test for large language models. And so I use all these models for different things all the time. And Perplexity, which is getting really popular right now, Perplexity is actually not a large language model. It's a answers engine. So it's designed to be almost like a Google. But what makes it so powerful is that they've teamed up with everybody, and you can select what large language model you want to provide your response in there. So this was really big. They did run into a lot of hallucination problems over the last couple of months. And there's even rumors about them being acquired by some other companies just to shut them down. Now, what they did is they pivoted, which was very smart for them, and they've created what's called the Comet browser. And Comet is our first realistic agentic browser that's integrated large language models as we know it inside the web browser. So this is what's making Perplexity extremely relevant at this point in time. I'm actually a user of the Comet browser. It's phenomenal. It has cross-tab context. So what that means is I could have 50 tabs open in my browser like most of us realtors do. And Perplexity can see all of the context inside all those tabs. And I can just chat right there on the browser with Perplexity, and it can pull data from each of those individual tabs and get me the information I'm looking for without me having to click through.
Okay, that's so interesting. Thank you. All right. Yeah. So I know that we're kind of running out of time, so I want to jump the topic over to why did you join EXP? You've been at 10 different brokerages, I think you said. So, so why EXP?
Yeah, you know, it's actually it's a pretty wild story. I was at HomeSmart, which is a 100% brokerage, very low office fees. And my Facebook ads were starting to go over $10 a lead. And I was frustrated with that. So I was on YouTube trying to look for new different methods on how to set up the Facebook ads. And I stumbled across a video that was giving me a tutorial on how to get leads for under $5. Happened to be Mike Sherrard. So I watched that, and I literally paused and played and set it up. Ran that ad. By the next morning, I was getting ads back under $5. So I was like, oh, dope. So I started watching more of his channel, and he advertised this thing called the Social Agent Academy, which I was realizing at this point in time that social media was becoming even more important than it ever was before. Realtors that want to stay alive in this business must be on social media. So I was going to buy this course for $1,000. I was like, all right, let's swipe the business credit card. And I wasn't in a very good financial position at that time. So I kind of just sat there and delayed on it. And then I said, you know what, before I swipe my card today, I'm going to just, I'm going to sleep on it, and I'm going to come back tomorrow and I'll buy it if it's still something that I want to do. And I did that. And then the next morning I woke up and I was like, let me watch more videos. Let me just make sure that this is worth it. And I ended up on on one of Mike's collaboration calls where they were talking about open houses with Garth Ward. And I watched that, and this little banner came up on the bottom of the screen that was like, you can get the Social Agent Academy and more for free. Click the link in the below to schedule a call with me. So I did that, and then lo and behold, Mike was actually the one who took the call, which I thought was really cool because I could see his relevance in the real estate space off of YouTube. He had, almost 100,000 subscribers at that point in time. And he took the call, and he was just like, yeah, you can join me at the Wolf Pack. And he said EXP, and I almost shut down completely because out of those 10 brokerages, EXP, one of my brokers, I was with a boutique brokerage at one point in time that switched and became EXP. And when that happened, the model changed inside the brokerage, and I left because of it. So I was kind of on that same train with all the rest of the realtors that was like, oh, EXP is just full of a bunch of recruiters. But the way that Mike was able to break down what EXP actually was, and most importantly, the Wolf Pack, because let's be honest, that's what I joined the Wolf Pack that happened to be at EXP. My love for EXP came later. I wasn't very convinced on the EXP side of things, but I felt like the Wolf Pack was my spot. That was why I went through so many brokerages, is that I'm very unique in my own way. I do not look like your typical realtor. I like to, wear t-shirts, and I got a beard, and I probably drop a couple of F-bombs here and there. And every brokerage I was ever with tried to change me into this corporate realtor. I was even with a brokerage once that thought that my image wasn't a good fit for the company. And I thought that was really weird, considering the fact I'm an independent contractor just choosing to hang my license with you. So when I heard about the Wolfpack and EXP, I was like, okay, I'll give this a shot. And I joined. And that ended up being the best decision I ever made, because, I think EXP was incorrectly represented to me in the beginning. And Mike was able to break it out and help me realize what value there was in being in a virtual brokerage like this. And now you couldn't pay me to leave.
That's great. And I feel the same way about that, Adam. So going back to just like, if you were going to start real estate today, is there anything you would have done differently? Because it sounds like you start out with this method of leads that has actually worked for you, and you've carried it through, and you added AI somewhere along the way. You already had a lot of the skills through being in your band, a lot of the things that we actually do. Is there anything now, everything that you've learned in real estate, that you might have done differently, besides maybe you wouldn't have gone around to so many different brokerages? I don't know. Or maybe you think that was really valuable.
Yeah, no, I think I would have interviewed more brokerages at the start. Instead of just settling with, Keller Williams was the $1 million real estate agent and all this other stuff. I only interviewed one brokerage and I went to it, and then I realized I didn't like them. And then I interviewed one brokerage and then I went with that, and then I realized I didn't like them. And I just kind of kept doing that. I think I would have treated the interview process a little bit more seriously and tried to see what kind of value is actually going to come from me here. An agent that just got out of school only teaches you how to not go to jail. School doesn't teach you how to do real estate. And I didn't realize the importance of having a proper mentor, having a proper structured, systematic setup that we could just copy, right? So I would have done that. And if I was starting over today, I would hope that I found the Wolfpack, because that was really the game changer for me, at least, is being around these people that actually treat you like family, that aren't hoarding all the secrets. Like every other brokerage I went through, they'd tell you a little bit, and then the real meat and potatoes they'd keep to themselves, because they didn't want that inter-office competition going on. Whereas the Wolfpack is spread so far and so wide through so many different countries that they have this mindset of abundance. And they're like, yeah, let me show you exactly how to do this. And then you can employ it in yours. And it's wild, because even with some of the people in the Wolfpack that are in my exact area, we're really good friends and we share everything with each other. I'm always teaching AI. Jeremy's teaching me organic lead gen, and Louis teaching me systems and processes. And we just kind of feed off of each other. And we're all very successful in what we do. And there's no competitive environment. It's all collaborative. So I would just hope that if I was a new agent now, that I'd find the Wolfpack first and not have to go through all the other 9 brokerages.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. And I feel exactly the same way about the Wolfpack too. And not only do we have that culture right where we live, it's also when we go to EXPCon, we'll be sharing across teams too. It's such a big cultural plus that it's hard to, I think, grasp that without actually being here and seeing it and just feeling it, right? You can feel it too. So, before we wrap up, I just want to say that, we're lucky at EXP because we now have this co-sponsorship thing going on, so that agents can come on and they can actually name 2 sponsors, essentially, a primary sponsor that they do on their application, and then a co-sponsor that they do within 5 days. And you and I share the same upline, so we can actually work together. We can work with together with an agent. They can choose one of us as one or the other. I'm assuming that your offer as a co-sponsor, it must be all the AI that you bring to the table, because that's really all you, right?
Yeah. So throughout this process of being with the Wolfpack, Mike, Louis, and Jeremy, who are, very close friends of mine now that I've joined in, they taught me what my value was. They helped me see my value with the AI and my geekiness and my CRMs. So I actually created a mastermind community of my own called Apex Elite AI, and people that join me as a sponsor or a co-sponsor inside of EXP get all of my training and all of my community with my mastermind calls and everything that's included in that for absolutely free.
Yeah, that is great.
Well, I just want to thank you for being here. It was such a pleasure to learn more about your story. Thank you for your time and for sharing so kindly to this audience.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. I had a great time.
Great. Bye.
Awesome. See ya.
If you got any value from this video, subscribe and hit the bell notification so you'll be notified of our next valuable agent story. And if you're interested in partnering with Smart Agent Alliance or with Adam or with both of us, click the appropriate links in the description below to get the ball rolling. And if you want any more information about eXp Realty or our team, there should be more videos showing above my head. Thank you for watching and have a great day.